I'm delighted to be joined now by Bob Ward, Policy Director at the Grantham Research Institute at the London School of Economics. Bob, thank you very much for coming in.
Good evening, and congratulations again on your knighthood, Sir Jacob.
Thank you, that's extremely kind. Doesn't it make sense to make sure that we use our resources first on the basis that 2050 is net zero, not absolute zero?
So it would make sense if what we didn't make any difference to what happens around the world. But unfortunately, today's decision is a signal to all fossil fuel producers that you can carry on with business as usual, because that's what the UK does. It's acting as if climate change isn't an issue and as if burning fossil fuels doesn't produce carbon dioxide. The economic benefits, there are going to be some investment benefits, jobs benefits, which are good, but they are going to be outweighed by, in the long term, by the damage to the economy of us being dependent on fossil fuels. Remember, at peak production, Rosebank is expected to produce 70,000 barrels of oil every day. Last year, global production daily was 93 million. So the production of Rosebank will be 0.07%. That will make no difference to energy security, and it will make no difference to the global price of oil. But it also won't make us more secure, because 70,000 barrels a day is roughly 5% of our oil consumption, even if the private companies that own the oil decide to sell it to British consumers rather than to the highest bidder abroad.
Actually, 5% is quite an important part of our demand.
It's not trivial, but it won't make any difference given the decline in production from all the other fields in the North Sea.
I'd go to your first point, that this encourages other countries. You want the democracies around the world to be producing the fossil fuels, so we're not dependent on the non-democratic states. If you look at what's happened over the last few months, Saudi Arabia and OPEC Plus has decided to reduce production, which has pushed the oil price up from, $70-ish a barrel to nearly $100 a barrel, having an effect on the whole global economy. We don't want to be held to ransom by non-democratic states, do we?
Yeah, but British oil being pumped now is being sold at that market price. It's controlled by Saudi Arabia. And remember, Saudi Arabia's oil is produced at much lower operating costs than the North Sea oil. And so it is not going to be controlled by what we do here.
Saudi Arabia has the lowest cost of production of anywhere in the world. That's absolutely right. But that the more diversity of supply there is, the harder it is for Saudi Arabia, by cutting 1 million barrels a day or 2 million barrels a day, the harder it is for Saudi to control the price in that way, because you've got alternative supplies coming in. And this is the lesson from the previous oil spikes in the 70s and the 80s, that diversity of supply helps keep pricing down.
Diversity of supply might help, but remember in 2019, before the pandemic, the oil price was relatively low, and we had relatively low petrol and diesel prices. There was no investment going into the North Sea because the price of oil was too low. Our oil and gas in the North Sea is only economic when consumers are paying high prices. That's the problem at the moment, is we have high prices. Remember, we've had cost of living crisis, partly triggered by the spike in natural gas prices because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
But I don't really see that we're disagreeing, because this is the marvellous effect of the market, that when prices are high, investing in the North Sea is really worthwhile.
Consumers pay. It's not good news for consumers.
No, because it stops the price going up even higher. That if we didn't do this, if we didn't add to supply when it's economic to do so, the price would go way up above $100 a barrel.
Rosebank, the decision about Rosebank today will not protect us this winter if we have a cold, long winter.
That's obviously true. Yeah.
Or in future winters, because it's not going to be significant. We will end up being vulnerable to increases in the global price of natural gas. And remember, oil prices going up, petrol and diesel prices are going up at the pump at the moment. We are not protected by the stuff we pump out of the North Sea.
But it's no individual field will make a fundamental difference to the market, but pricing is at the margin. And if investment in the North Sea is economic, and it's economic in other countries with similarly high-cost exploration, then that actually does bring the price down, because to your very first point, the rest of the world sees we're doing it and follows. And this is really good news for consumers.
I'm sorry, that's not how it... As you know, that isn't how it works, because it's controlled by a cartel. as you admit.
Well, part
the
of the
organisation,
market is.
yeah, but they set the global oil price.
Well,
at the moment, our dependence on fossil fuels is funding Vladimir Putin's war machine, because the money that we're paying into the market, some of that goes to Russia, who are working with Saudi Arabia to control the global oil price.
But if you look at OPEC, going right back to the 70s, when the price has gone up and other participants have come into the market, the monopolistic, oligopolistic behaviour of OPEC has been undermined. So that's why it's so important that other countries do produce such oil as they can to stop OPEC and Russia having us where they want us and making these supernormal profits.
Yeah, but remember, this isn't the UK producing this oil. These are private companies. The majority share in Rosebank is 80% is owned by a Norwegian company, Equinor.
Yes, but
right?
we work incredibly closely with Norway,
Indeed,
as you know.
But the profits are going to Equinor's owners, not to British owners.
But 75% will come to the Treasury.
Well, they will get
a lot of money.
They'll get some tax. But remember, we have been paying oil and gas companies in the North Sea an awful amount. In fact, we were paying them more in tax rebates 2 years ago to help them decommission. So it is not a big bonanza for the British taxpayer being dependent on fossil fuels.
Those tax rebates are something we've discussed before and is completely normal amongst all other companies. But Bob, I'm afraid we're going to have to stop. I'm so sorry, you must come back again, because there's so much to discuss on this.